bigger and bigger. If you're not here at 7 o'clock, then you're missing out. Because I was thinking, wow, how wonderful it is. The pujaris have made such a nice arrangement for Radha Shanji to look so wonderful, the whole altar. Right? The curtains opening right at 7 o'clock. 2 minutes early. It's amazing. All the children here, I think I counted around 30 to 35 people. Yeah, it's amazing. It's growing. And all the children here, so I'd like to thank all the children, and then I thank the parents, because I don't think they just walk here by themselves. If they do, you might get talked to. Today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 5. We'll go through verses 39 through 51, and the focus verse of the day is 42. And we'll sing Jai Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nanda-braja Ranjana Yashoda Nanda-braja Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nanda-braja Ranjana Nanda-braja Jana-ranjana Yamuna-tira-vanachari Yamuna-tira-vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabiyari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana-braja Jana-ranjana Yamuna-tira-vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Jaya Radha Madhava Shri Radhe Madhava Shri Radhe Jaya Radha Kalasanji Radha Kalasanji Shri Radhe Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Shri Radha Madhava ki jai. Shri Radha Kalashanji ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yeah. We'll all repeat together. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devyam Sarasvatam Visyatam Tato Jayam Yudirayat Nasta Prayasa Abreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Om Gantamarandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Shakshuran Vityam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. So reading from Canto 3, Chapter 5, text 39 through 51, focusing on 42. The theme for today are the benefits of taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet and the position of the demigods. So the theme 1 is the benefits of taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. Second, the position of the demigods. Just a 5. Canto 3, text 5. We'll go 39 through 51. So 39 and we'll finish the rest of the chapter. Is the focus first, yes. So if we could turn, let's start with 42 today, please. Let me turn this. I was going to just go off that, but okay. Yadshadara Srutavatya cha bhaktya Yashadraya Srutavatya cha bhaktya Samrijamane hirdavadayaya Samrijamane hirdaya vadaya Jananaya vagraya balena dira Janena varagya balena dira Rajema tate nigri sagrod pitaham Nigri Vajena tamte nagrita roja pitaham. Somebody like to repeat, please? Stop. Cha cha draya. Chadraya Sruta Bhaktya Samrajamane hirdavadayaya Ganena vayagrabalena dhira Rajeme tate nigri sarjaditam. Somebody else? One more? One more? Yashadraya srutata cha bhaktya Samrejamane hirdevai vadaya Okay, then we'll do the synonyms together, please. Yat, that which. Sraddhaya, by eagerness. Srutvatya, simply by hearing. Cha, also. Bhaktya, in devotion. Samrajamane, being cleansed. Hirde in the heart, avadya meditation, vinena by knowledge, vaigra detachment, balena by the strength of, dharira the pacified, rajema must go to, tat that, te your anurge feet, sordambitaham lotus sanctuary. Will somebody please read the translation?
Simply by hearing about your lotus feet with eagerness and devotion, and by meditating upon them within the heart, one at once becomes enlightened with knowledge. And on the strength of detachment, one becomes pacified. We must therefore take shelter of the sanctuary of your lotus feet.
Somebody read the first paragraph of the purport, please.
The miracles of meditation on the lotus feet of the Lord with eagerness and devotion are so great that no other process can compare to it. The minds of materialistic persons are so disturbed that it is almost impossible for them to search after the supreme truth by personal, regulative endeavors. But even such materialistic men with a little eagerness for hearing about the transcendental name, fame, quantities, etc., can surpass all the methods of obtaining knowledge and detachment. The conditioned soul is attached with the bodily conception of the self, and therefore he is in ignorance. Culture of self-knowledge can bring the detachment from material affection, and with such detachment there is no meaning to knowledge. The most stubborn attachment for material enjoyment is sex life. One who is attached to sex life, to be understood, is devoid of knowledge. Knowledge is followed by detachment. There is way of self-realization, these two essentials for self-realization, knowledge and detachment, become manifest very quickly in one performed devotional service to the lotus feet of the Lord. The word Dhira is very significant in this connection. A person who is not disturbed even in the presence of cause and disturbance is called Dhira. Suri
Yamunacharya
says, since my heart has been overwhelmed by devotional service of Lord Krishna, I cannot even think of sex life. And if thoughts of sex come upon me, I at once feel disgust, and devotion of the Lord becomes elevated
Dhira
by the simple process of meditation and eagerness on the lotus feet of the Lord.
Next paragraph, somebody please.
Devotional service entails being initiated by a bona fide spiritual master and following his instruction in regard to hearing about the Lord. Such a bona fide spiritual master is accepted by regularly hearing from him about the Lord. The improvement in knowledge and detachment can be perceived by devotees as an actual experience. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu strongly recommended this process of hearing from a bona fide devotee, and by following this process one can achieve the highest result, conquering all other methods.
So, we're in ignorance currently. As we spoke about yesterday, what is that ignorance? That ignorance is that we understand ourselves to be this body, that this world, this material nature is all in all. It is the being of all, the end of all beings, and we've forgotten that's the ignorance, and the forgotten part of that ignorance is that we are a spirit soul. And there's something beyond this material world. That what is beyond this material world is the spiritual world, and we're part of that spiritual world. So if we're in this ignorance and we don't know what to do, we're confused, we're bewildered, what is it that is going to get us from this, get us out of this ignorance? What is Srila Prabhupada in this verse saying is purport in the verse? What are the two main things? Knowledge and detachment, right? And what is going to give us that knowledge and detachment? Srila Prabhupada says two different things, but let's focus on the first paragraph. What is the first thing, and the translation? What is going to give us knowledge and attachment? His lotus feet, right? So it says we're taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. So let's think about what a shelter means. What is shelter? Grab him a shield.
A shield.
A shield.
Armor.
Armor. Yeah, right? Safe place.
Sanctuary.
Sanctuary. What'd you say? Protected. Right? So when we think of our homes, we think of them as shelter. And hopefully you live in a home that's safe, protected, a place where you feel comfortable, right? So this is the shelter of the lotus feet. When we take the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, we feel sheltered in the sense of we feel comfortable, we feel safe, we feel all of these, yes?
The refuge.
The refuge, right? Yes, yes. So by taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, we start to, we get these two things, knowledge and detachment. So let's first talk about knowledge. It's interesting because, maybe I'm a little bit backwards here because this is interesting because the taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord gives us knowledge. And what knowledge is that? The only shelter is the Lord's lotus feet. It's kind of, we take shelter of his lotus feet, we get the knowledge that that's the only place to be. Right? So that's the knowledge that we're trying to come up with, because remember, we're in ignorance. We've forgotten that we are a spirit soul and that Krishna is our ultimate best friend. He is our salvation. He's our everything. So then we start to find some surrender and we start to say, Krishna, please take care of me. And that's through this knowledge. And then through this knowledge becomes attachment. So what does detachment mean to the devotee? Separation. Separation from what?
Material world.
From the material world.
From lust and all the defiled things.
Yes, all the vile things. Material nature. Material nature is very vile, right? It just abuses us and abuses us and abuses us, and we go back for more, and we go back for more, and we go back for more, until eventually we go, wait a minute, maybe I should do something different. And that's Krishna's mercy also, right? That eventually we'll turn and say, you know, I'm doing something wrong here.
The Redeemer.
So, the what? The Redeemer. So for the devotee, detachment doesn't mean that we are completely renounced and that we just sit and we do nothing. The only way to become detached is to get a taste for something higher. To give up something lower, we must have a taste for something higher. I was thinking about food, right? And if you're eating out of a box, and you're in college, and my wife left, so I'm going to tell this story. When I first met her, my parents make really good enchiladas. My mom makes, enchiladas. So my girlfriend at the time, my wife, says, I can make enchiladas. Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. Nanda-braja was once a rascal. Still am, but just a different degree. So she buys, she'd be so mad if I was telling this, but she buys the frozen burritos from the store, the frozen pre-made burritos. They're cheese and bean burritos. And then she buys a can of enchilada sauce. And then she buys some shredded cheese. And so she cooks the burritos, throws on the enchilada sauce, the canned enchilada, and throws on the cheese. And well, if you're in college, hey, that's a pretty good meal right there. And that's what her point was, is like, this is what I lived on. This was college, what I did, But I was like, man, I appreciated the effort, of course, But when you've tasted mom's enchiladas, that are homemade and this and that, we got some work to do. So the point being is that when we're in college, or when we're in a lower, in a situation where things that we're doing are of how do I say this? I'm trying to figure out how the words I'm saying. Sometimes our taste, sometimes our position is that which is we're attracted to things that aren't that tasteful for somebody who knows something higher, right? So I knew of my mom's enchiladas, and so when I got these, I was like, thank you, but like, ooh, you know. So for instance, the devotee who's hearing from Srimad Bhagavatam and taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, they're starting to get to they get a taste for the highest. They're hearing about Krishna's pastimes. They're hearing from the devotees. They're hearing about their dance. Well, here, we just experienced it, right? We're singing and dancing, and then we'll go feast later. And this is the spiritual life of the devotee. So naturally, the material nature, the things that are causing us the frustration, we give up. And this is detachment for the devotee. Is we're no longer attached to the lower things. We're no longer attached to material nature. We become attached to the spiritual nature. And so our renunciation becomes renunciation of lower, our material nature, but it becomes we become accepting of spiritual nature. So in the second, yes, Trista.
I just had a thought when you mentioned how we were all chanting and dancing here. It's like there's a taste for sleeping in. There's like a lot of like pleasure that people get out of like sleeping in super late. But you can see that the people who are here, it's like they've rejected that lower pleasure for the higher pleasure of the morning program. So I like your point.
Yeah. And the interesting thing too is that even some people that come into the mode of goodness or passion start to do this too. They'll get up and they'll work out at 5 a.m., like get their energy and stuff like. We're not saying that that's bad or anything like that, but the point is that even some of these things that we do, like getting up early, aren't necessarily giving us transcendental bliss. And I'm not trying to downplay what you were saying. I'm trying to add on to it in the sense of that because we're coming up, getting early and engaging in devotional service, that our hearts start to soften. And we start to feel that joy of just Krishna consciousness, of being with Krishna and his devotees. It's so sweet. So, yes, Sudevi.
On that point. The other day we had Guru Prasad Swami was at the Krishna house, and there was a class in the morning, and this one man, he's like, with all due respect, he's like, I just admire you all so much. You're all so pure. He was like commenting on the devotees that they're, trying to do something like really high. And he's like, but don't you just ever want to do what us regular people want to do? He's like, don't you see like a beautiful woman and just appreciate the beauty? Or don't you want to just like go do something kind of like nonsense kind of thing? And Guru Prasad Swami was like, well, I think most of us already have done all that. And he made a good point. Like, yeah, we have done that. We know what that is. And this is higher. I like your point you're making.
In the last paragraph, Srila Prabhupada explains, I mentioned there's two ways to get knowledge and detachment, right? Taking shelter of the lotus feet, and there's another way, and Srila Prabhupada is mentioning this in the second paragraph. What's that? It's taking shelter of the spiritual master, right? We sing this in the morning, the very last stanza of our song, Yasha Prasadam, Bhagavat Prasado, Yasha Prasadam, Nanagitatopi. By the mercy of Krishna, one gets the spiritual master, and by the mercy of the spiritual master, one gets Krishna. So when we might at first, because of sentiment, start to say, dear Lord, dear God, please help me. What should I do? I'm just stressed. I'm not happy. I'm in so many suffering. Please help me. And Krishna, by his mercy, says, okay, here's the spiritual master. And so the spiritual master starts to teach us more deeply about the knowledge of Krishna's lotus feet. He explains the activities, the form, and the name of Krishna. And then he also is explaining, helping us to become detached from material nature. Srila Prabhupada, our preeminent guru, has given us these purports. See, the Srimad Bhagavatam has verses and then purports. And Srila Prabhupada has given us these purports, and they're accumulation of all of the past teachers before Srila Prabhupada, and he's putting it in a way that we can understand right now. So you'll hear Srila Prabhupada in his purports, like in one of the early ones, he talks about Srila Jiva Goswami. And he says in Srila Jiva Goswami, his purports, he speaks about this. And so you'll hear this throughout Srila Prabhupada's purport. He'll talk about the previous past acharyas. And it's quite bewildering if you start to think about how much Srila Prabhupada was taking from. I mean, like, I myself have a tough time even hearing from just Srila Prabhupada, but Srila Prabhupada will go to Sridhar Swami, to Shiva Jiva Goswami, and he'll just mention all of these acharyas and these different purports that are coming from. It's quite amazing to read it and understand how deep Srila Prabhupada's understanding of the past teachers are, and how to give that to us in a way that we can understand. Okay, let's turn to text 39, please. Let's start reading the verses, please.
The demigod said, O Lord, your lotus feet are like an umbrella for the surrendered souls, protecting them from all the miseries of material existence. All the sages under that shelter throw off all material miseries. We therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet.
So the demigods are speaking, and why are we hearing from the demigods? Well, the demigods are so blessed by Krishna that they can see the past, present, and future. That they are given, they are the confidential servants of the Lord, and they're giving this great responsibility. So hearing from them and knowing about this, hearing from them is like hearing from the spiritual master. Let's go to verse 40, please.
O Father, O Lord, O personality of Godhead, the living entities in the material world can never have any happiness because they are overwhelmed by the three kinds of miseries. Therefore, they take shelter of the shade of your lotus feet, which are full of knowledge, and thus we take shelter of them.
What are the three miseries that we're speaking about in this verse? Okay, so you said hunger. So that could be said that there's miseries that are natural that happen. A natural disaster, or natural. What's that? Yes. Well, you think hunger would be? I was thinking. Okay, I could see that. I was thinking more of like famine. Like there's not, through drought, one might become hunger. But there, okay. So one of the miseries is with the body and the mind. So the body and mind is constantly in desire, wanting either food stuff, or the mind is like distracting us from this or that. We want it to stay focused, and it keeps on, saying, hey, what about this? Squirrel, right? They say. So this is the miseries of the mind and the body. What's the next one? That's one. I kind of mentioned it. So there's these natural disasters, natural, what's the word I'm looking for? Calamities. Disturbances, natural disturbances. Yes, same thing. They come from things like tornadoes, hurricanes, famine, droughts, and stuff like that. There's these natural things that come that are proclivities. What's that? I was actually, when I was reading that, I was thinking that same thing. Natural disturbances, being 109 for the last month. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. What's the last one? other living entities. I was loading up this pew into a truck, and I looked down, and there's like 30 fire ants on my feet. And Jose's laughing because he knows. And they bit me, and my feet were swollen, and there's, oh my gosh. And I didn't know I was stepping in an area that was going to disturb them. Jose loves it. Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Jose's mentioning that I was disturbing them. I'm a living entity disturbing that living entity, and that living entity disturbs me. Well, this is the material world, huh? Okay. Huh? Reciprocating. How nicely. Okay, text 41, please.
The lotus feet of the Lord are by themselves the shelter of all places of pilgrimage. The great clear-minded sages, carried by the wings of the Vedas, always search after the nest of your lotus-like face. Some of them surrender to your lotus feet at every step by taking shelter of the best of rivers, the Ganges, which can deliver one from all sinful reactions.
So interesting, he says, always search after the nest of your lotus-like face. So a nest is very comfortable, right? So it's made for the safety of the babies of the mother chick. And it says, Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport that the Paramahamsas, the great devotees of the Lord, they are like the swans who make their nest of the lotus flowers, the leaves from the lotus flower. And this is Krishna. It's the nest, the complete rest. When you're in your nest, you're in your bed, you can take complete rest because you're in a shelter. It's completely safe. And so this is Krishna's lotus feet. And the Ganges is a river that is also the resting or the pilgrimage of the devotees. 42, please.
Simply by hearing about your lotus feet with eagerness and devotion, and by meditating upon them within the heart, one at once becomes enlightened with knowledge, and on the strength of detachment, one becomes pacified. You must therefore take shelter of the sanctuary of your lotus feet.
43, please.
O Lord, you assume incarnations for the creation, maintenance, and dissolution of the cosmic manifestation, and therefore we all take shelter of your lotus feet, because they always award remembrance and courage to your devotees.
So we mentioned earlier that the demigods are servants of the Lord. So the demigods have taken shelter of worshiping the Lord. Whereas the demons, Srila Prabhupada mentioned, they don't worship the Lord. So this is the difference between demons and demigods. Demigods take shelter of Krishna in worshiping Him, and the demons, they want nothing to do with the worship of the Lord. 44, please.
O Lord, persons who are entangled by undesirable eagerness for the temporary body and kinsmen, and who are bound by thoughts of mine and I, are unable to see your lotus feet, although your lotus feet are situated within their own bodies. But let us take shelter of your lotus feet.
So I am the surveyor of all that is. I am the owner of everything. I am God. I am this. This is the fault of I, thinking that I am the center of everything. And Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport that the way to get away from this I and mine is Krishna Katha. So speaking about Krishna. So things like reading Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting together, singing together, Krishna, speaking about Krishna gives us the knowledge and the detachment of I and mine. 45, please. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand at any time too. Or any comments.
O great Lord, sensitive persons whose internal vision has been too affected by externalistic activities cannot see your lotus feet, but they are seen by your pure devotees, whose one and only aim is to transcendentally enjoy your activities.
This kind of relates to the last paragraph on the 42, right? That without the pure devotee, we really can't get that complete satisfaction of the shelter of the lotus feet. The pure devotee has the vision, they've seen it, they've understood, they have the knowledge, and they help us. They bring us through that association to a point where we can take shelter of Krishna. "46, please.
O Lord, persons who, because of their serious attitude, attain the stage of enlightened devotional service, achieve the complete meaning of renunciation and knowledge, and attain the Vaikuntha Loka in the spiritual sky, simply by drinking the nectar of your topics."
The spiritual world is where it's at. Go there.
Others who are pacified by means of transcendental self-realization and have conquered over the modes of nature by dint of strong power and knowledge also enter into you, but for them there is much pain, whereas the devotee simply discharges devotional service and thus feels no such pain.
48, please.
O original person, we are therefore but yours only. Although we are your creatures, we are born one after another under the influence of three modes of nature, and for this reason we are separated in action. Therefore, after the creation, we could not act concertedly for your transcendental.
O unborn one, please enlighten us regarding the ways and means by which we can offer you all enjoyable grains and commodities, so that both we and all other living entities in this world can maintain ourselves without disturbance and can easily accumulate the necessities of life, both for you and for ourselves.
You are the original personal founder of all the demigods, in the orders of different gradations. Yet you are the oldest and are unchanged. O Lord, you have no source or superior. You have impregnated the external energy with the semen of the total living entities. Yet you are unborn.
And last.
O Supreme Self, please give us who are created in the beginning from the
Mahatattva,
the total cosmic energy, your kinds on how we shall act. Kindly award us to perfect knowledge and potency so that we can render you service in the different departments of subsequent creation.
Mm-hmm.
Subsequent creation.
We're asking, please help us so that we can do the service. Any questions, comments, thoughts? Yes, Jose.
It's off topic, but it's when you were talking about the difference between demons and demigods,
Mm-hmm.
and the one thing that came into my mind was Indra.
Mm.
So can a demigod become a demon because of offenses?
Mm. So the demigods, being servants of Krishna, are still attached to their powers or services or their position. So they're not necessarily, not all of them are pure devotees in that sense. However, there are some demigods that are in that position of pure devotees of the Lord. And so there's two different ways. Sometimes people make mistakes, right? We make mistakes. Demigods make mistakes. We get bewildered. We get illusioned. And then there's a second way where Krishna is actually arranging it in a way so that there can be a lesson. For instance, Arjuna is a pure devotee of the Lord. He never forgets Krishna, and he never doesn't know his duty. However, the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, in the very first chapter, is bewildered. I do not know what to do. I make so many reasons why not to fight, and Krishna, ends up telling him, you must fight, right? Well, that was because Krishna's arrangement for the movie, the wonderful movie, the wonderful Leela of Krishna. And so sometimes, like Indra or the demigods, will be put into what's called Mahamaya, or the influence of, they'll be put into an illusion by the influence of the Lord, so that some nice story can be taken. Or Yogamaya, excuse me, thank you. Yogamaya, not Mahamaya. Mahamaya is material nature. So by Yogamaya's potency, there'll be illusion, but before the purpose of the Lord's purpose. Does that make sense? Anybody want to add to that? Thoughts?
Talking about, we know that sex is death, but we know that...
I'm sorry, what was that?
That sex is death,
Okay.
or living in the body is death, material world death, spiritual death. But marriage, could you enlighten the marriage aspect of Krishna?
This is a great point. I was actually thinking about going into this, so I'm glad you brought this up. So the devotee isn't renunciating everything just on the basis of it being disgusting. They're basing it on whether it's beneficial to their service for Krishna or unbeneficial. Anything that is unbeneficial to their service for Krishna, off the side. Anything that is beneficial for their service is accepted. So in the sense of sex life, that when people are going to have children, right? But the devotee's thinking, I'm going to have children so that I can help them with their devotional service. So this is part of my devotional service to the Lord, is to have children, to grow them up in Krishna consciousness, and do the best I can as a parent to show them how to be a devotee. So even sex life is, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I am sex life that is what the principle, not contrary to the principle, to religious principles. So no, we're not against sex. We're against the sense of, I am the enjoyer, this is for me, this is for my sense gratification, and that's the trap. And the ultimate trap in the material world is that. It's in the material world, the greatest gratification we can get is sex life. And so it's the ultimate trap. Whether we can say, okay, I'm only going to use it for Lord's service, or if I'm doing it for my enjoyment. Yes?
For the marriage aspect of it, how does these ceremonies work for marriage of Krishna, or the gatherings of marriage?
So Vedic marriage, we only have 5 minutes. Yeah, it can be a long process. So we will have breakfast afterwards. Would you mind if we talked about that at breakfast? Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, James. Any other yes? Questions, comments, concerns?
I had a thought on the demigod topic. I was thinking about how there's demigods and there's demons, and then there's I think demons. I know that there's losing my train of thought, but there's people that are born into families of demons, like Prahlad Maharaj or Bali Maharaj, and they're technically demons, but they're self-realized. And they're devotees. So, and also there's people who are demigods, but they're not self-realized necessarily. And whenever we're reading Bhagavatam or reading Krishna book or something, and we come across a bunch of stories about demigods and demons, they act pretty much exactly like us. They just have a lot more powers and a lot more responsibility. And I find it really interesting because they seem very human. They make the same types of decisions, they make the same types of mistakes, they forget things, they mess up, they have different desires. But yeah, I don't know. It's something that's really interesting with demigods and demons. Yeah, I just was thinking about it. That they're very not relatable, I guess. Relatable.
Yeah. It's really interesting, right? Because you have these living entities that are being blessed by Krishna to do this service, and they're being empowered by him, and yet they still are going through some of the things that we're going through. So I misspoke earlier. I said that we can take the demigod's instructions like the spiritual master. That was a mistake, because some of our spiritual master, when we take the shelter of the spiritual master, he's not conditioned by the material energy, like Srila Prabhupada. So, anyways, I just wanted to mention that I said that, and I was kind of I don't know if that's exactly what I should say. So I want to correct that.
I was thinking even if you're born as a demigod, then you can still make mistakes, or you can still forget Krishna, which was interesting. Indra or like Brahma, they forget Krishna, like throughout Krishna book,
Mm.
and then they make those mistakes. But the difference is that they come back
Mm.
and they like realize that they're like errors, and because I would think, and then you have like different demons, and they forget Krishna, but then they don't come back. They try to
Mm.
fight him, or
Mm.
they try to conquer the world, or like the 3 universes or something. And but then at the same time, there's like different cases with demons, and then they gain that realization. And I don't know. I guess that's maybe why those stories are so important in Bhagavatam.
Mm.
It's because like it shows that even like these people who are so intelligent and so knowledgeable and so powerful,
Mm.
they face the same types of vices that we face.
Mm.
And it's just like how they kind of bounce back from it afterwards. Because like Indra will go and like pray to Vishnu, and he'll be like, please, like, you know, I lost my kingdom again.
Yeah.
Can you come and like take incarnation and save us? So yeah. It's cool.
I was thinking on this topic, there's the story of Vritrasura. I think it's Vritrasura, not Vrikasura. I think Vrikasura is the head explode guy. I don't know. Maybe I'm mixing them up, but basically, the demon had the qualities of a devotee, or it had the pious qualities, while the demigod had the demoniac qualities, and it was almost like they swapped places in the battle.
Mm.
And I was just thinking it kind of parallels to how some people, they may have a very pious birth, and other people, they may have a very like, like they're born in very harsh circumstances. But I was just thinking, it kind of like the divine qualities, it's not based off of birth, but it's based off your actions. It's based off of, your qualities. And similarly, like a lower or like a harsh circumstance you're born into, it's based off of your activities, which defines whether you're of the divine or the demoniac qualities. So I thought that was very interesting.
It could be said it's based on your consciousness. What is your consciousness? Are you being Krishna consciousness in the sense that you're trying to do some kind of service that's pleasing to the Lord, or are you trying to benefit yourself? Okay, yes, Nrsingarupa Prabhu.
I was just really appreciating this last text, 51, and I realized that if you just replace O Supreme Self with O Radha Lachandi, how nice the prayer is, like this personal prayer to the Lord. And it just, anyway, that was just a little reflection, a little thought.
Jai, Shishi Radha Kalasanji. Yes, Prabhupada Priya.
I just really like this verse, number 41, where it's very poetic. He says, the great clear-minded sages carried by the wings of the Vedas always search after the nest of your lotus-like face. I was thinking that, he's comparing them to the sages are like birds, and the wings, what enables the birds to fly is the knowledge, the Vedic knowledge. And then where do they fly to? They fly to the shelter of the nest of Krishna's lotus-like face.
Jai.
So, I was thinking that knowledge has this liberating and empowering quality, that it gives us wings to fly. And we can fly over this forest of material enjoyment and go back to find shelter at the nest of Krishna.
Jai. So we had a couple themes, one of them being the position of the demigods. So really quickly, does anybody have a comment on what's the position of the demigods for our discussion today?
They're cosmic bureaucrats.
They're cosmic bureaucrats. That's funny. What else? The servants, Krishna. They worship Krishna. Yeah, different responsibilities. Yeah. Well, not the demigods. The demigods are always. Yes. Go ahead.
So they are karma mishrit bhaktas, devotees. They are not pure devotees. They do morning program, and rest of the day they enjoy their senses.
Jai.
Oh, in that kind of, in that sense of Prabhupada, I've heard it described like Krishna's like the president and the demigods are the cabinet ministers. Like
The cosmic bureaucrats. Okay, and the other theme was the benefits of taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. Please, what's the benefits of taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet? Being redeemed. Knowledge. Achieving the higher spiritual self. Knowledge. What's that? Being delivered from the material world. Detached from the material world. Jose said fulfillment by taking shelter. By taking the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, we get the ability to give nice service to Him. What about the spiritual master? By taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, we get the blessings of the spiritual master, or He gives us the Is it? Yeah, it says it's both, right? By the spiritual master's blessings, we get Krishna. By Krishna's blessing, we get the spiritual master. It is shelter. It's the safe. This is where we're safe. In this material nature, nothing is safe. It is miseries behind every corner. By an open door, it's like a chute. Is it going to be, how bad is it going to be? But Krishna's lotus feet, the shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, there's always safety. There's always that nest that we're looking for. Complete rest. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Shri Radhakala Chandraji ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Pramanande. Hari Hari Bol. All glories to simple devotees.